Hey, what's up? DNC Performance. We're at the shop and we got a bunch of stuff to do. So we got all the parts for Tom's car. We got the AN fitting for the drain block turbo mount that I made. Basically just copied the gasket onto a solid block and excuse me, turned it down to fit inside of a 1 inch, I think it's 1 inch, it's like 1.25 inch OD pipe, cut a 45. This end will get cut down to length, so this will mount to the bottom of the turbo, and I kind of chamfered the edge so that this outer edge is the size of the drain on the actual turbo, and it'll kind of won't stop oil or slow oil down, whatever you want to call it. So I'll take excuse me, take the dash 10 weld fitting, put it on this side, get it welded in. We'll get it mounted up, and then I got some of the brass fittings. I got T's over here, and that's what we use to connect the Mac valves. So you put a close nipple in. These are 1/8 MPT. You put a close nipple on each side of the Mac valve, and then a T goes in the middle of them. That ties them together, but it also puts the two ports, I believe they're the bottom port on the wastegate. So that's what pushes the wastegates up. This only has one wastegate, the VS Racing 60mm. So we should have all the parts for Tom's car. We got all the push locks. Everything is here. The 5-inch V-band's here. The aluminum reducer for the outlet on the turbo is here. Everything's here. We also have Chad's Ranger stuffed in here, which we're doing a cage on it. He bought a S&W kit. So Saturday I went ahead and drilled the floor for the main hoop. Got it in. Right now it's just up with a bungee, kind of just holding it up somewhat in place. It's not fully in place, but tried to keep the holes as tight as I could. I hate seeing big square holes to get the tube down in, so I drilled the holes, and then we had to kind of just open up the front because the bar has to lean and go all the way through, and then they come out underneath, oh boy, to go to these outriggers here that go along the frame. So we didn't put a monster hole in the bottom of the truck neither. We'll have to, the only thing we'll have to do is where this goes against the frame, it hits the body mount. So we have to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and cut a groove in this tube. I'll probably do it on the end mill or the mill, and I'll cut a groove in this tube, however long this is, a couple inches, whatever it is. That way it kind of slots up in it. And then we'll be able to weld all the way around that square tube and get the roll cage welded to it real nice. So getting old. And then what I do is I put a ratchet strap through the roof, and that'll let me hold the halo. We call it a halo. Some people call it, I don't know what S&W calls it. Let's see. They call it a roof hoop. Okay. What we call it a halo. It's called a roof hoop. We call it a halo because it goes around your head, you know. So I do that. It kind of gets me an idea of where it wants to go. Then I could take the A-pillar bars and I can kind of set them in and get an idea how tight they'll be. He wants to keep a dash, not a full dash. He's gutting it. This is going to be like a drag and drive truck that he's going to build for him and his family. And he was nice enough that he completely stripped the truck, windshield, back window, all the interior, everything out of it. So once we get the 8-pillar bars in, I believe this kit has diagonals to come off the main hoop. It has diagonals, which I haven't quite decided if I'm gonna run a cross member across from like frame rail to frame rail to tie those diagonals into. That might be what we do with this one. Otherwise we can plate the floor where the diagonal goes down to. Don't really care for that. I'd rather do a hole through the floor and tie it in. But we'll have to see kind of how everything lays out and where that crossbar would be. And most likely, I don't know if I would do it in square tube or grab a piece of round bar or grab another piece of tubing. This is a mild steel cage, so I haven't even fully decided if I'm gonna MIG weld it in or TIG weld it. I'll probably end up TIG welding it just so it looks a little bit nicer. But that's what we got going on for today. I am going to, right now, I'm going to get that turbo mount for Tom's car in so that we can mount the turbo, have it in place, and then work on the wastegate. So once I get the wastegate into the hot side from the manifold and finish welded, basically I can bolt all that stuff in 100%. Turbo will be mounted, like finally mounted, bolted in the car, and then I can start to finish the downpipe where it's going to come out the car, which I may leave. He said he's going to try and come up tomorrow, so I may leave the downpipe kind of off for now, but I have enough tubing and stuff to get that finished. But I'll go ahead and if I get turbo all bolted in, mounted up, get the hot side done, the wastegate, and then start working on the charge pipe to the intercooler. So that's what I got going on. Show some progress as I go, like I always do, and we'll be back. All right, so back. Got a bunch of stuff done. So I got the mount with the bung welded to it, and then I made the tube to go to the frame rail. And while this was cooling, I took the reducer and welded it to the V-band for the compressor outlet. And the way I weld my V-bands is I put them together and tighten them, and then I weld it, and that transfers some of the heat to this side, helps keep it from warping a little bit. So I got that. I also changed the wastegate spring. VS Racing, when you buy it, it comes with 2 springs smashed inside there, which I think is like 14. I don't remember exactly what 2 springs they are, but they were roughly, I think it was like 22 pounds, 21 pounds, somewhere around there. So I took the bigger spring out. It should be about a 4 or 5 pound spring in there right now, from what I remember. Also, I took the manifold temp sensor out, what I call the intake air temp, IAT. Holly refers to it as MAT. I don't know if it's manifold air temp, something like that. But I took it out from back here, and I put a plug in there. And then I took the charge pipe off the intercooler and I welded the 3/8 MPT bung into it. Screwed the sensor back into it. I let it all cool off. Screwed the sensor back in, plugged it in. So now that's a better location for that. Then thought I did something else. I might not have done something else. Maybe that's what I did that I'm thinking about. But this is ready to go in right now. I'm just waiting for it to cool off. I just welded this here. So waiting for that to cool off. And then I'll get that in, bolted up, not sealed up or nothing like that. The bolts will just be kind of snug on there because I do have to get a couple washers for the M8 125 bolts that I got for it. So I'll have to pull them out, put washers, but I have to pull more or less everything apart anyways before I seal that up. But I marked the frame where that's going to get welded to. This is going to get welded right to the unibody frame. So yeah, that's a quick little update on, oh, that was the other thing. I knew I did something. Put the Mac valves together with the T in the middle, the nipples. So the way I read them is this is your vent, B positive vent. I believe it's B positive vent, might be B negative vent. And this is your fill. So this port, number 1, goes to the top of the dome. No, this is your pressure source. This goes to the top of the dome. This one's plugged, and this one gets the little screen. Pretty sure I'm right. I have a picture that I saved. So I got that together. This one, I cut this one out, undid a couple of the zip ties. This is the 12 volt feed for it, and this is the feed going back to the Holly, which I'm gonna put a like a Deutsch connector, a Deutsch plug on there, probably do a 4-pin, and I'll take the 2 positives on the opposite side of this plug so that all 4 of these will be separate going into the plug, and then on the other side I'll take and tie the 2 positives together, and then I'll have to run another input into the car, or an output from the harness out here to control the second Mac valve. And then I think I'm going to take the transducer off the back of the valley cover, where the adapter is. So it's got like that ICT billet adapter right there, or whatever brand it is. But this should be 1/8 MPT. So what I could do is I can screw one of those nipples, one of those close nipples in, put a T, put the transducer back on the top, and then I can use the branch to feed the compressor oil, or not the compressor, the turbo oil. That'll be my feed. That way I can get rid of this line running all the way down to the side of the engine. I might be able to just take it from down there and bring it to up here and reuse that actual line. It'd be a little bit easier. And then put a cap plug, basically the same little 1/8 inch MPT plug down inside where they have it attached to this line. So that line's about a foot short, so it's about maybe a little more than a foot from down there to up here. So it might give me a little bit of extra. Maybe go out this hole over here and tie it up in inside the fender behind the strut, something like that, or along the frame rail there, and then bring it up and over. Just have to be careful that I don't get it near the tire and it rubs the tire and does all that crazy crap. But yeah, and then the drain is going to be a little tough on this one because of the way the manifold comes off, it literally comes off almost right next to where the drain is on the front cover. Would have been a little nicer if the drain was in the oil pan, whether it be in the front of the oil pan or the side of the oil pan, whichever. It would have been a little bit easier to get a drain routed over there, but it is what it is. We'll figure it out. Worst case scenario, we can cap that one. I don't know. I mean, without taking the pan off, there's really not a way other than to tap the pan, which I kind of hate doing because I just put fresh oil in this. So I'd hate to have to drain the oil and wash the pan out, you know, and do all that. But that's kind of an update. So I'll be working on all that today. I'm going to get that mount in here. At the very least, I'll get it tacked in really, really good. Probably 4 good tacks on it. Clean off the frame rail, all the paint off the frame rail. Get the 4 tacks on it, and then I'll be able to get rid of the jack that's holding the turbo and be able to raise the car up and work on it from underneath instead of crawling around on the ground. So I'll work on that, and I shall return. Okay, so I don't know, maybe an hour and a half or so later, the charge pipe is all done. I got the mount up in there, and it's welded here to the frame all the way around, bolted in with the fitting. The O-ring flange for the compressor outlet comes down, a little jog there because these are never 90, all the way across, little jog, and back into the piece. This is the piece that was on there. Kind of came up and it had a silicone boot right there, but got everything in. The clamps are, you know, still able to swivel, which tells you it's not like super whatever wiggled in there. Angled, whatever. So now what I'm thinking, now that I'm under here, is the drain. I could actually go straight above the radiator hose right to the bottom of the frame. That way it's on a slight decline, and then comes right up into this, the fitting for it, probably with a 45. I gotta see what I have for fittings for that. I think I could probably reuse the line that came off, or the fittings I mean, and try and make a new drain for that. So I'm gonna try and do that because it's got a straight it's got a straight and a 45 on it, but obviously it's too short. So I'm gonna try and make the drain, and then I'm gonna finish up the downpipe. I still gotta get this nut off and get this ground cable moved. What I'll probably end up doing is, now that I'm looking, it's like divoted up into it, I'll probably put a washer on here. I don't know. Maybe it's just a tab, but I'll put a washer on here, then put the cable, and then put the nut up on it. That way it tries to seat a little more better. But yeah, so moving along, plugging away, we will get it. All right, it is hot, and you can tell by the fire. Been working, getting it done. So the hot side now is 100%. I got it RTV, copper, like high temp crap, in the gaskets in there, all tight. That V-band over there is not tight yet. The mount is tight, the turbo is mounted, the drain is on there. I don't know why I'm showing you the fender. The drain is on there, that's tight, it's all sealed up with the gasket and some RTV. Then the top feed, I didn't notice because I didn't pull the cap off, but it's not threaded in the turbo body. So I had to make that block real quick and thread it for 1/8 inch MPT, and then put a -4, so I got the feed on it, and I got it tucked up along the fender through that hole to the back of the motor with the sensor back in. I didn't have to plug the other side. He had one of those blocks that has 2 ports on it, so I just took the block out and put the standard, that little cap that goes on the side of the oil pan when it doesn't have an oil cooler. And I just put that back on with a new gasket, 2 new bolts, and you can see I got the wastegate in. It's not the perfect exact location where I would have liked it, but it is in the direct flow of the exhaust, so that's tied in. I just have it pointing this way. I don't know, not sure exactly where I'm going to go with that yet. Tom stopped by and he was kind of thinking to take the downpipe and like turn it real tight into the fender and come out the fender over here, but the issue with that is the tire. When the tire goes up, it's going to hit the fender. There's not even though it looks like there's a lot of room, there's really not that much room to get below that rail there and out to this fender for a 5-inch pipe. So the tire will tuck up in there, because when you turn the tire all the way where the downpipe is coming right now, through here, it will hit the tire right in this area. But what I'm looking at, I went and put the intercooler charge pipe on, or I made it and put it on, and what I should have done was had the downpipe first, to get the downpipe kind of as close to the tire but as far back as it can, and then I could have made the charge pipe. So what I'm gonna do is just take the charge pipe off, make the downpipe come out right here in the fender. It's kind of the only place it could go. Get it away from the tire, and then I'll take the charge pipe and route it farther forward. There's a ton of room in front of it. I'll route it farther forward and then turn it out over there. So basically I'll just chop this 90 off, do a little swing in here, and then a swing and a swing and a swing, something like that. But for today, that's it. I'm kind of done. I'm tired, I'm hot, I'm sweaty. So it's about 6 o'clock and I'm closing the doors, going home, and I'll be back tomorrow. I to work on Chad's today, but I'll be back at it tomorrow. Talk to Tom about some other changes he wants to make with the car, so we're gonna do that as soon as we get Chad's truck out of here. So appreciate you watching. Thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment. Have a good day.